Hi, today we're going to go through section B, the object-oriented programming section of the 2023 practical paper. Let's read the scenario first. Rent My Parking is testing a new paperless parking ticket system using RFID tags to record each vehicle's entry and exit times. A vehicle may enter and leave the parking garage multiple times, and at the end of the month, the owner is invoiced for the times they use the parking garage. The parking garage offers daily and long-term parking. A vehicle with long-term parking is allocated to its permanent parking bay with a number. A vehicle can park in this bay for several hours or days. For daily parking, the vehicle must exit the parking garage before midnight on the same day they entered. If the vehicle stays overnight, the owner will be fined 850 Rand. Following rates are used for daily and long-term parking. Daily is 24 Rand 50 per hour and 850 fine for overstay. Long term is 250 per day. And there's sample test data stored in the text file parkings.txt has been generated for vehicles with daily and long-term parking over a month. So they show us what those lines are. We'll look at it in more detail in a moment. Each line in the text file represents a vehicle's daily or long-term parking entry and exit into the parking garage. So you're going to have two classes. The first is daily. The details for a vehicle's daily parking entry and exit are stored as follows. We've got the registration number of the car, then the entry date and time, and then the exit date and time, and they are separated by semicolons. And the date times are stored in the format shown here, YYYY/MM/DD, and then HH:MM. So it's the date and time. And then the long term, the details of a long-term parking entry and exit are stored in the text file as follows. There's registration number, the entry date and time, exit date and time, and a parking bay. So you can see you've got a parent class daily and a child class called long-term, which will inherit from daily. And if we just look at the text file in more detail, you can see some lines are shorter. They are the daily type entries or records in the text file. And then we've got the long-term lines, which have got an extra field at the end. Okay, let's go to question 2. It says, use the class diagram below to create the daily class. Use this class to create objects to store the daily parking entry details. The diagram indicates the required fields and methods. So we've got a registration number string, an entry date time, which is a date time object, an exit date time, another date time object, and then two finals or constants, hourly rate, which is 24.5, and fine amount, which is 850. And then all the methods. So we're going to go to NetBeans and start coding. But before I do, this is my technique of approaching a paper like this. I will go right away to see what will the application class be called in this paper. And here in question 5, you usually have to go quite far down in the paper to find it. This is usually it's called UE class, but you'll see it's the one that gives you the user interface and output. You know that this is the one that's got the application class. So I'm just going to create my project here in NetBeans and call it Parking UE. Okay, I've already got one called that because I've already done this paper. Let's just call it 1. Okay, not quite right here, but yeah, we'll call it number 1. Okay, and I'm going to park that, leave it there. It's ready for when I get to question 5. I'm going to scroll back up to question 2, and let's start on our object definition, our object class. I'm going to go to my projects. You can see I've got my parking UE project, and over here, I'm going to go new Java class. And I must create this one as daily. Okay, So you can see there, if you look at the projects, both of the classes are already in the right folder, okay? And that is important. So now we can start coding. I've got minus registration numbers, colon strings of private, string, and registration number. And then I've got minus entry date time, colon date time, so this is private, local date time, and then entry date time. It's very important to stick to the exact field names you have been given, okay? You are allowed to copy from your own code if you want to, so I could have done that, but I've just chosen to type it in again. There we've got all our instance variables. Now we get to the two constants. It says plus, that's public. I can see that the line is underlined over here. Hourly rate equals 24.5 colon real. So I must make it static. It's in capitals and it's set equal to a number. So I must make it final. Okay. And then I can only get to the real part. Now, why does it say real? But in Java, we don't have a type called real. We've got a type called double. The reason is that this class diagram has been created for any language, any programming language. Any programmer should be able to pick this up and start going and type it in whatever language he's doing or she. Okay, so now we've got public static final double hourly rates in capitals equals 24.5. Okay, and then we'll have the fine amounts. Don't be shy to copy your own code. You got it. Type that in again, so you might as well highlight it, Control-C, Control-V, and then fine amount equals 850. Right. Put the point zero if you want, not necessary. Oh, and I forgot these two. Why are they highlighted in red? It says cannot find symbol if I hover there. The reason is I have not done my import, so I'm going to click on the light bulb and add import, and that sorts that out. Okay, now I'm going to be ready for the constructor. I haven't even read the questions, but you can see here, code a constructor method that will accept the string. And here are all the parameters that I must use. Okay, now you can type this in if you want to. Public, whoops, in lowercase, public daily. Remember, your constructor will always have the same name as the name of the class. Go string in rn, comma, local date time in et, comma, local date time in, sorry, first one was in et, in ey. Is that right? In ey, in et. And then we've got to finish our constructor. We're going to have double click that because I don't feel like typing it in. Equals in rn. And then entry date time, double click, Control-C, Control-V, equals in ey. And then double click, Control-C, Control-V, equals in et. Okay, that's your constructor. Then we've got to create 3 getter methods. Let's create accessor methods for the registration number, entry date time, and exit date time fields of the class. Over here, I really would suggest you use the insert code. So you click in the space where you want to put the method. Okay, remember you must be inside the curly bracket that closes the class, just above it. You right click, you go insert code, you click on getter. These are all get methods. We don't want to make getters for our 2 static fields, our constants, not necessary. We just need them for those 3. Okay, so you tick them and click generate, and there they are. Okay, now let's scroll down, and the get parking fee is going to be quite it's for 8 marks, so it's a longer method. It's not quite as easy. All right, it's not just generate code. So it says create the method get parking fee to determine the amount to be charged for each daily entry and exit to the parking garage. The method must determine if the entry and exit date are the same, and if so, calculate the number of hours the vehicle has been in the garage and multiply the number of hours by the hourly rate field. If the entry and exit date day are not the same, the parking fee will be the value stored in the fine amount field. You may assume that a vehicle is never more than 1 day overdue. For example, if we had a vehicle registration number BJW595AC with that entry date time, that exit date time, you can work out it's been there for 15 hours. 21 minus 6 is 15. So it will be 15 times 24.5, and that is what you must return. If you look at the class diagram, it will tell you. It's called get parking fee, bracket, bracket, colon, real. So we know it must be a public double get parking fee. Just bracket, bracket, no parameters. All right. And it's going to return a double, it creates a double. Let's call it fee and set it equal to 0 and return. Now we just have to fill in what goes in the middle of the method. So first of all, it says determine if the entry and exit dates are the same. We've got entry date time and exit date time. You can't just say if entry date time dot equals. Can't just say that. Because remember, you're looking at the whole date time if you do this. You do not want to include the minutes and the hours. You only want to get the local date part out of the object and compare the two date parts of the object. So another way of doing this, I'm going to comment this out, and another way of doing this would be, I would say entry date time dot get year, if that is equal to exit date time dot get year, and then I'm going to copy this and change it to month dot get month, and here copy that, double click, paste it there. So we want the year, the month, and the day to be equal. I'll paste it again. Oops, not that. Let's copy that line again. Control C, Control V, and we'll say dot get day. And here, dot get day. Oh, there is no dot get day. Dot get day does not exist. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here and go and look this up. I'm going to show the Java doc. You could go Alt F1. It's not working. Sorry. It's here. One, not working. Okay, there's one that's valid. Alt F1. It's looking it up for me. Oh, it's dot get day of you. Okay, we can just go dot get day of you. Double click, copy that. Double click, paste it there. All right. So that's going to tell us whether the two dates are the same. So you could use either the first one, which I've now commented out, or the second one where you compare the year separately, the month separately, and the day of the year separately. So if they are equal, then let's just move that out the way. Oops, and go back to the exam paper. So then we must calculate the number of hours the vehicle has been in the garage. For that, you need to use the duration class. We're going to say difference equals duration dot between, and then we put the two dates in here. Entry date time dot two local dates, comma, carry on the next line, exit date time dot two local dates. So now we're going to work out the V equals difference dot 2 hours. That's going to give us the number of hours that we've that car has been parked there, and then times hourly rate. Oops, there you go. Right. So that is if the dates were the same. If the dates were not the same, remember, it says if the entry and exit date are not the same, the parking fee will be the value stored in the fine amount field. So we need an else. The fee will be equal to fine amount. And then we've got our return fee at the bottom there. So there's our method, right? Now I know that the memo worked it a little bit more accurate than I did. Let me show you. So they've also got duration diff equals duration dot between entry date time dot two local time, comma exit date time dot two local time. We've got the same, but then they work out the seconds. Okay, and then they say local time R diff equals local date time dot of second of day 6. Sure. So that's like that's quite fancy. I'm not sure if they expected you to go to that much detail in the exam, but I would have thought that this could be accurate enough. Okay. Let's go to the two-string method. Add a two-string method to the class that will return a string containing the registration number, entry date time, exit date time, parking fee. The exit and the entry and exit date time must appear on a new line. So we've got, this is the format they want, these two lines. Right, let's look at it in a bit more detail. Let's zoom in a bit there. Okay, be better to see. Right, so we've got, you see if it's in quotes, registration colon, that funny V thing is a space. Okay, it says note that the triangle indicates a single space. So registration colon space. Then you want the actual registration number field, then a tab, then the word fee colon and a space and an R, then the parking fee, what do you call the actual parking fee, which I suppose you will use your get parking fee method. Okay. Then entry colon space, entry date time, space, exit, colon space, exit date time. Sure. Right. This just requires you to be meticulous. Remember, it's public string to string. And we're going to say string temp. Okay, I like to build a temp string because it's quite a complicated thing. Or you could just return it all in one go. Space plus registration number plus, I'm going to go to the next line, quote. Now we want a \T for the tab, then the word FEE colon, another space R, then plus. Now you're going to use our, you see it says parking fee here, parking fee. So we have to use our get parking fee method. Okay, plus. Then on a new line, do you see how the entry and exit dates are on a new line? So we're going to go quote /n to make sure it goes to a new line. Entry, colon, space, got the Y, plus entry date time, plus quote space, exit, colon, space, plus exit date time. Right. And okay, oops, I don't think we're quite done. Right. Actually, a more complicated, okay, if there was a fee due to overstaying, well, I think it doesn't matter. Because if it was an overstaying fee, then the get parking method will work it out, and it's only for 4 marks, so it's not that complicated a method. Return yep. That should do it. Okay. Now we get to the next class. Question 3, use the class diagram below to create a class called longterm. We go back to our project, click there, right-click, new Java class. And this one is called longterm. Okay, there it is. And remember that this class will inherit from the daily class. We need to put the words extends daily. Like that. Okay. Then we put our fields. So we've got private, reading over here, private, string, parking bay, colon, then public, and again, this is a static. It's a final because it's in capitals and it's set equal to something. It's a real, which translates to a double in Java, and then rate per day equals 250. We're ready for our constructor now. You can right-click, insert code, and generate your constructor. I'm going to do that for you this time. Click there. But it hasn't actually used the super keyword, so I'm going to undo that and rather program it manually. Okay. So let's do the construct. Public, long term, brackets. We want all of these fields, okay? You can go and copy them from your constructor, these ones. Those 3 are already in your constructor in daily, so copy them and paste them there. And we're going to go comma and string in PB is the last one. Put your brackets. And now we're going to say super. And we're going to call, by saying super, we're calling the parent class constructor. Whenever we say super in this class, where we've put extends daily, we're actually calling daily. So we need to call the daily constructor. To call the daily constructor, we need in-rn, in-ey, and in-et. So in-rn, comma, in-ey, comma, in-et. Semicolon. And then all we have to do is say parking bay equals in PB. Now there's an error there. Let's just check what's going on. Something's funny there. Okay, not sure why that's not happy. Here's a constructor. Local datetime. Let's try saving. No. Okay. Yeah, sometimes saving sort of causes it to reevaluate the whole process and it fixes the problem. All right, there's these two little blocks there cause you to save. So we've done that, we've done the constant, we've done the constructor, create an accessor method for the parking bay field. We're going to right-click, insert code, getter, and just for the parking bay field, we're going to generate. Right. And then code a method to override the get parking fee method in the parent class. The method should determine the number of days of long-term parking entry, multiplied by the rate per day field, return the result as a real. Note that there will be no charge for vehicles that park in a long-term bay for less than 1 day, as the number of days will be 0. So we've got the vehicle registration number, entry date time, exit date time, and there you go. Right. So let's do a public double get parking fee. Right. And over here, I just want to see how many marks this is for. This is for 5 marks. Okay. So let's try and do that. So we're going to create a double fee equals 0. And then return fee. Bottom. Now we need to work out the difference between the number of days of the long-term parking. So now we're going to use a period class to work out the time between. Difference equals period dot between. We want the entry date time, but if we say entry date time, we've declared it as private in the field in the class above. So we have to use the get entry date time method. That's going to give us the date and then dot to local dates, comma, and then we want the get exit date time, bracket, dot to local date, bracket, like that. Then the fee is equal to the difference times the rate per day. Times, why is that not working? Times, sorry, rate per day. There you go. Right. Why am I getting an error? Oh, I think I need to say difference dot get days. There you go. Okay, lastly, let's do the toString here. So public string toString. This time, do you see that these 2 lines are exactly the same as the toString class above? All we have to do is add the parking bay at the bottom. You can see it's only for 3 marks. So we're going to say return super dot toString, super being the daily class, plus we want a quote \n for a new line, then parking bay, colon space, plus parking bay. And there you go. All right. And that's the long-term class is done now. Now we can go to parking manager. So again, this is another object class which works with the array that we're going to right-click new Java class. And we're going to call it parking manager. Right. Add 2 instance variables to this class, an array called PR to store 50 daily or long-term objects. So these, and it says here, these 2 variables should not be accessible outside the class, so private. What type of object is this? We call it by the parent class name. So daily, type of array, the square brackets to say we're declaring an array. The name of the array is PR equals new daily. And how many did they want to store? 50. So square brackets, 50. And then an integer called size to record the number of objects added to the array. So again, private, this is an integer, size equals 0. Always set to 0 at the top. Now code a constructor method for the class that will read the contents of the file, parkings.txt. Each line of the file contains entries and exits of vehicles using daily or long-term parking. And your method should read each line from the file, extract the data, instantiate either a daily or long-term object based on the line's extracted data, add the daily or long-term object to the next available position in the array, and increase the size. Yeah, I'm going to make that bigger so you can see better. So we want our constructor. Constructors are always called the same name as the name of the class. And there you go. First thing we do here is to declare our scanner class object. We are then opening the file for reading. New file, and in the brackets, quotes parking.txt. And at this stage, okay, well, first let's click on the light bulb, do our two imports, an import for the scanner, an import for the file class. It gets underlined a third time in red. We need to click on the light bulb again and surround statement with try catch. That's what we're going to do. Remember that all our code to read from the file is going to go here. But at the bottom, when NetBeans has put this logger.get logger line, I'm going to change that to a print statement just to say file not found. Okay, so now we're all set to read our text file. Only thing is we haven't put it into the right folder. So let's go and do that. So over here, I've got my data files, and I'm in section B, and I want this parkings.txt folder. You will get this with your exam. So I'm going to right click on that and copy it, and then go to the place where I'm saving my NetBeans projects. I've got a parking UE1 folder. Remember that my project is called parking UE1. If you look at my projects, parking UE1. So there's my parking UE1 folder where my whole project is stored. I'm going to right click and paste my text file right here. So it's ready now for reading. I'm just going to open it as well, so I can refer to it while I'm busy programming it. Okay. So we need to start now reading from the text file. So we're going to go while sc file dot has next. Remember what we're doing here is as we read from the text file, it's like an arrow there pointing to where we are reading. At the moment, it's pointing here because we haven't even started reading. We haven't started reading. It's going to read the first line, then the second line. When it gets to the bottom, this sc file.has next is going to become false. Once we've read the last line, it will point to the empty line below and say, no, there are no more lines to read, and it will become false. Okay. So we need to start reading. We're going to go string sc line equals sc file dot next line. So we've got this whole line, GEY268FS, etc., is sitting in this string called sc line. There are three pieces of data there. There's a registration number, then a semicolon, there's the entry date time, and the semicolon, the exit date time, and the semicolon. So we need to split the line up into those three parts. So we're going to declare a second scanner class object. Scanner sc. Actually, I'm going to call that line, sorry, not sc line. This is the one I want to call sc line. Sc line stands for scanner line. Okay, equals new scanner. Brackets. I'm going to put my line that I've just read in there, dot, use delimiter, quote, semicolon. I'm going to say, I want you to split up this line for me. That's what the second scanner class object does. splits up the line. Every time I go dot next, I'm going to get another piece of the string out. First, I'll get the registration number. It will see there's a semicolon. Then I'll get the entry date time. It will see there's second semicolon, and then it will give me the exit date time. So I'm going to say string reg. You can just declare small little names here. Equals sc line dot next. It's a string, so that's great. I'm going to say string, say ent equals sc line dot next, and then string ext equals sc line dot next. So at this stage, I've read 3 pieces. Not sure if there'll be a 4th piece. So I need to put an if statement. I'm going to say if sc line dot has next. If it does have another piece, then I know it's going to be a long-term object, right? It's going to be a long-term object because it's not got another piece of data there. What's that extra piece of data? It's the parking bay. Okay, that's the field we added when we created long-term, the parking bay. So then we're going to extract the parking bay. So say PB equals sc line dot next. And I've just remembered we need to actually convert these ENT and EXT lines into local date objects, local date time objects, because when we make our when we declare or instantiate our daily object in the array, we will need it as a local date time. So we're going to go local date time. Just say ENT LTD equals local date dot parse. We are parsing a string. Okay, string is ENT, and we need to tell this parse method what is the format of the string. We need the datetime formatter. And in there we put a string. If you look at the exam, it told us at the beginning of the exam. Let's go back there and look at the format of that string. They told us over here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So maybe let me shift this to the right for now. We can copy that. Okay. So it's y slash capital MM. Remember, we say capital MM for the months and small mm for the minutes. DD space capital HH colon small mm for the minutes. Okay, that's the format of the strings. Let's look. We've got local date time. We're declaring a new local date time object. ENTLTD equals local date time dot parse, because we are parsing a string. There's the string. ENT is the entry date in string format, comma, datetime formatter, and then there's the format of the date as it is in the string. Only thing is we need to do an import here. And hold on. Time formatter. Got that wrong somewhere. Sorry, I've forgotten something here. Dot of pattern. Okay. So now I can click there and add the import. Right. Datetime formatter dot of pattern. Of course, I needed a method there to say this is the pattern of the string. So that's going to work for the entry date time. Let's copy that line. Control C, Control V there. And we just need to redo this for the exit date time. Change that to EXT and EXT. And there you go. So now we're saying we're in this if part. We're saying if the line does have more data, so that would be like line 2, then that is actually the parking bay. So we know that we must read the parking bay out of the string. And then we've got the 4 pieces of data. We've got registration number, entry date time, exit date time, and the parking bay. So we are ready to instantiate a new long-term object into the array. So I'm going to say PR, square brackets, size. Remember, size is counting the cells in the array as we fill them, equals new. We're declaring a long-term object, and we just need to put the data. Remember, when we declare a long-term object, we are using this constructor. So we need a string, 2 local date times, and another string. So our string is the registration number. Our entry date time is ENC LTD, comma, and then our exit date time is EXT LTD, comma, and then our parking bay is PB. And that's it. And then we're going to go else. If there wasn't another piece to be read, then we were in a daily type object. So we're going to go PR square bracket size equals new daily brackets. And there we just want these 3 fields. Control C, Control V, and there you go. Okay, don't forget to sometimes go Alt Shift F while you're coding. Just tidies things up. And that's great. So we have now finished our while loop. Okay, actually, I don't need to enter there. We have finished our while loop. The next step is we must go size plus plus. The end. Actually, hadn't finished the while loop. We had to add size plus plus because every time we've added an array object into the array, we must go size plus plus. Then at the end here, we're going to go sc file dot close. Semicolon. Close the file. Finished reading it. Okay, this is the not quite the exciting part. Okay, let's go back to our exam paper. Oops. And we were at question 4. It says code a 2-string method to combine the values of each object in the array PR into a string. Details of each daily or long-term object should be separated by a blank line. Use the object's 2-string methods you created in questions 2.6 and 3.7. So it's going to be public string, 2-string, and we're going to go string temp equals quote quote. Now we need a for loop. If our tab gives you an instant for loop, just remember to change the limits at the top. We want to go up to size, not to 10, because size has kept track of how many cells were in the text file as we read them. I haven't counted them, but there they are. It's 31 lines. There you go. So size will be set to 31 when it's finished counting all these cells and putting them into the array. Now we need to go and add each cell from the array into a long string that we can then go and print when we want to see what we read from the text file. So we're going to say temp equals temp plus PR square brackets I, and you can say dot to string. You don't have to, but you can. And oops, and we must remember to put backslash n on the end, plus quote backslash n. But they said they want a blank line between them. So we better put 2 backslash n, okay? And all we need to do now is return 10. Okay, so that's going to give you the whole array. If it's a daily object, it will use the 2-string from the daily class. If it's a long-term object, it will use the 2-string from the long-term class, right? What I like to do at this stage, before I go to the sort method, I'm just immediately going to instantiate a parking manager object. is my parking manager constructor. And in so doing, I'll be reading from the text file into the array, and then I will also call this toString method and see if things are working so far. All right. So I'm just going to remove these comments, and then let's create our parking manager object. Let's just call it PM equals new parking manager. And then we're going to just print PM. Let's check. I want to see if this works. This is the important moment. Whoops, file not found. Okay, so we've got a problem there. Okay, I've just checked it, and it's just a simple spelling mistake. It's parkings.txt. Okay, let's go back there and run it. And that looks a bit better. There are all our parking bays and registration numbers. There they are. You can see there's GEY268FS, and there it is with entry and exit date and times and the fees. Okay, so it all looks great. And we are ready now to go and do the sort method. Let's go and read the question. Put it on the side. And it says, create a method named sort by registration to sort the objects in the array called PR in alphabetical order of the registration numbers. Just public void. Remember, sort methods are usually sort void by registration. Here you just need 2 for loops. First one goes from 0 to size -1. And the second one, you could just go FOR tab again. Java can see, NetBeans can see there's another for loop around it, so it automatically makes this the J loop. We're going to say I+1, and this one goes to size. Then we're just going to say if, we're going to say PR, square brackets, I, dot, get registration number. Brackets. Now we want to compare it with the one from the J. So dot compare to, I'm going to just put that on the next line. I want PR.get registration number. I'm going to copy that and put in the brackets there, but I want the J. And if the dot compare to method gives me a greater than 0 result, I know that this registration number, maybe it's a Z number, comes before this one. Maybe this one is an A. And in that case, they need to be swapped. I'll put my curly brackets there. And I'm just going to create a temporary, daily temp, P array, square brackets, I. Then I can set PR, square brackets, I equal to PR, square brackets, J. Oops, my equal sign. And then I can set PR, J, square brackets, J equal to temp. And that's my for loop, my sort method done. So we can go back there. Let's call the sort method here. We're going to say pm.sort by registration before we print. And check that they now come out in alphabetical order if we run it. Look. And you can see they look good. We've got the A number plate in the B and so on. All right. And we end off with the R's. So all good. And that was part 1 of the paper. It's been quite a long video, so I will carry on with question 5 in the next section. Thanks for watching and thanks for learning today.